communities. When I play the game of the NLA, I can see where my money goes, and it's an investment into our culture.
Yes, Grenada, when you play the games of the NLA, you enable us to invest in the skills and talents of our people in the areas of sports, culture, and nation building.
Welcome to another MTV Community Forum. I'm your host, Byron Campbell, and of course our co-host, Chris Diali. Chris, good evening.
Good evening, Byron. It seems that you were getting difficulty finding my name. That's fine.
I didn't want, well, the difficulty was with junior or senior, but I got it right.
No, this
is senior.
Yeah, this is senior. Although I may look as good as junior, but that's all right. Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the program. I'm happy to be here again with you.
Chris, and of course, you can tell viewers about our guest this evening.
Yes, we have our guest this evening is going to be Reverend Stanford Simon. As you know, he has been a minister of religion for many years, and particularly in the St. George's Baptist Church. But he has recently changed focus, and he's now a politician and representing the DPM. So we want to engage him this evening to understand, you know,
We want to know how those two things work,
yes,
politics and religion.
So we're going to have a good discussion with Pastor Simon.
Chris, a lot's been happening, and most important, Chris, the big thing now is that the earthquake in Venezuela. Massive 7.2, and then followed by 7.5. Twin quakes, as they call it, over 1,700 people killed so far, but as much as several tens of thousands, as much as 50,000 unaccounted for, meaning that they've not been found. Over several hundred buildings have collapsed. The health services are in disarray, and of course this is on the back of the food security situation and the collapse in health services. So there's a lot of issues there. But Chris, I want to look at now rebuilding. That country is going to take a lot of money. And the point I want to raise, Chris, is that over $3 billion of Venezuela funds are frozen in foreign banks. Switzerland alone froze over 800, almost 900 million. UNDP says the damage is likely to be over $6.7 billion in terms of that. So the question is, how Venezuela is going to move forward with this?
Well, you know, I want to say two things, primarily. This is an opportunity for Venezuela to build back better. And Venezuela have a section in Caracas where people live on top of each other.
Yes.
And the construction is of low value, and a lot of the deaths and the collapse would be in that area. So this gives them an opportunity to redo this area and do it properly. However, the sad part of it is the amount of deaths. And a lot of it have come from these poor areas where the construction is not of quality, and generally some of the big buildings, of course, suffer the same damage. And we have a situation where, I think the death toll this afternoon, I looked at it, was close to 2,000, 1,900 and so on.
Yeah.
And the rescue operations have now moved from recovering people from that they think may survive now to, you know, an issue of this is based on the time. If you have people under the rubble, they can't survive. So it's recovery of bodies.
This is almost, what, 7 days?
Yes. So it is a significant thing for them. And this amount of 15,000 people that is unaccounted for, you expect the death toll to rise significantly when they start removing the rubble and so on. So they do have a lot of challenges.
But Chris, what about the financing of the recovery, of the rebuilding?
Yes.
That's
And
the question.
I mean, Latin America and South America, where they are, have come together. One of the major banks have come together, and they're trying to channel government monies and so on to release funding in particular areas that are urgent, so healthcare, you know, and of course recovery of bodies and using heavy equipment. So in an earthquake, when buildings have collapsed, as we see with the bombing in other countries,
yeah.
and they destroy infrastructure, it's not a simple thing. And to rebuild is going to take them a while.
A lot of money.
And at the end of the day, you have to hope that the Caribbean and the CARICOM as well, particularly our country, who received a lot of help from Venezuela under the PetroCaribe initiative. We have not come out publicly and say what we're giving, but we apparently have, they have indicated that they will be part of this initiative with, the Latin America Bank.
But Chris released the funds. Several $1 billion have been held. This is Venezuela money. England alone is holding several tons of gold, Venezuelan gold. It belongs to Venezuela.
And it will be
so we should
interesting
be
to
talking
see.
about this.
It will be interesting to see how we react to that.
Yes.
Because the U.S., of course, is the one that is a major player in this.
Yes.
And preventing things. So when Maduro is there, they accuse him of all kind of wrong things. They don't no longer have Maduro.
Yeah.
So let us see what they're going to
What's
do.
happening, Chris?
Because there's an argument that the U.S. have extracted over $1 billion in oil already from Venezuela.
Exactly.
And they offer what, 100 million,
It's their
150
money.
million.
It's their money. Give them.
so-
Chris, of course, we're just coming out of 2 days ago, Monday, Fisherman's Birthday, but there was an issue there. The issue that the Royal Grenadian Police Force said no structure across the main road, stage only at St. Dominic's behind the gas station. Because emergency vehicles they felt need to traverse the area, need to pass through, create a bit of a noise in the community. I'm glad it was resolved, but clearly better communication seemed to have been a necessity here.
Yeah, and I think we have to always give security and safety the priority over fetting or cultural activities. To me, the two of them don't match.
Yeah.
If the authorities tell you that whatever you're proposing to block off a road with a stage and cause issues with security and safety, then you have to be open to alternative solutions to the problem. As a matter of fact, I don't think we should block off no road with a stage, whether it's in St. George's, in St. Andrews, wherever.
Yeah.
Because it poses a problem.
Unless there's an alternative one.
Exactly,
that is usable.
and somebody had said on the public forum that they're doing it in tongue, but they're blocking it in the country. And the police was clear to say the area the stage was on the carnage, wasn't blocking traffic, totally. You could have still passed.
But fundamentally, better communication, and you avoid this. You don't wait on the last. So on. Chris. Anyway, Chris, World Cup is on. The game's on. In fact, something of note here that 9 out of 10 African teams made the round of 32. That's 90%. That's a big deal. But also, which is interesting, is that there are a lot of players. Many of the players, France. Look at the squads. African roots. England has 15. Netherlands had 14. So even Holland and, well, that's the Netherlands, but a lot of these countries we see have a lot of players with African roots, and they're dominating, they're excelling
Well, I mean,
in the World Cup. This is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to what we knew as before. European countries primarily had white players.
Yeah.
And we don't have to apologize for saying that.
Yeah.
Not that they weren't good, who were there.
Yeah.
But obviously, players of African descent and black players seem to be more physically attuned to the speed of the games and what is happening. And you have to be really complimentary of where these guys have taken their skill and bring it on the international scene at World Cup and into the major teams and the leagues.
Racist abuse against many of them continue.
Yes, in England we have had that in many things with the clubs and what go on and what the spectators, because it's becoming difficult for them to accept the fact that these guys are doing so well, and are being now recruited and paying huge monies for their skill.
I'm quite impressed with
I mean, when you look at Mbappe and his skill and what he is doing for France.
I assume you're backing France, huh?
No, the France is the favorite.
Okay.
But this is a knockout competition. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
Yeah.
As we saw today, for example, in it was Senegal and Belgium. Interesting game. Chris, the ministry announced a day ago, 2 days ago, that this year they have the largest amount of plants for distribution, 81,000. That's a lot amount, and I congratulate them on this. This is awesome. This is a good stage. Second thing is, however, the distribution and the survivability of these plants. What are likely to be the mortality of these plants? Usually it's high, but kudos to the ministry here.
Yes, and I want to take this with the 40,000 spice trees that we're supposed to have been supposed to be planting, that was supposed to be a day or two ago.
Yeah.
And the real issue in this is follow-up.
Yeah.
A cinnamon tree takes about 7 years to mature. The mortality rate from the plants out of Maribo and these other places sometimes is high in the 40s and the 50s%.
This is true.
And then if I buy 5 orange trees, and I don't have the care and the time to take care of these 5 orange trees, one may survive. And that is a big problem we have in the country with all these plants.
Yeah.
If you look at Maribo and these other plant propagation stations, and you look over the last 10 years, the amount of plants they have generated across this board, it could be millions.
Yes.
So if we were to have a high rate of survivability, probably the whole country would have been in fruits and other things.
But as you talk about that, Chris, one of the issues there are no citrus plants this year. And Maribo has not produced any citrus for the past 6 years, I think, at least 5 to 6 years. And the reason is that we had the greening disease, citrus greening disease, and that has decimated the industry in Grenada. At one time, I know the previous government had put up some superstructure and they were planning to import other varieties.
But we just imported
varieties.
a set of coconut trees.
Yes,
and you haven't heard what has happened to these coconut trees?
Well, a lot didn't. Apparently, people probably how they were shipped in the containers, the heat. I think they've reordered what the suppliers agreed to.
I wanted 2 cinnamon trees, I didn't get them.
You didn't get
I just say it.
But anyway, Chris, finally, Chris, the Woodford Munda Farm Road, I learned, well, I'm aware of this, collapsed about 2 weeks ago. And so the farmers in this area have not been able to access their lands. They've not been able to harvest their crops or bring in fertilizer. So it's a real problem there. And I'm aware that there is a small project, a team from St. John's has been there, but it's with the rains and sometimes you don't know who's in charge or who's responsible. But the fact is, I believe that's, accessibility for farmers is critical, and I think that greater attention should in fact be placed on this area, all farm access road, but in this case, where it has collapsed, and there's a major company operating here, the Reno company. I'm aware too that in the past they have assisted with the making the road motorable, passable, but now it's really bad, and I think government attention is really required in ensuring that this road is passable.
I mean, Byron, to add to what you have been saying, we've been speaking on this program a little while now about the lack of attention to farm roads.
Yeah.
And farmers, we're talking agriculture, we're talking food security, but we're not talking about infrastructure development to help farmers get their produce to the supermarkets and the restaurants and so on. So we can't be talking in one ear and not doing something on the other side. And I saw a video today of that particular area that you're discussing.
Okay.
And probably if the technical team gets a chance, they could play it after the program so they could see the extent of the damage in those areas with that particular road. Yes, we have a huge construction company up there doing asphalt mix and all kind of things, but they use huge trucks to transport their things to and from, whether it's aggregate to do the mix and whatever. So they are also contributing to the destruction of the roads because these roads have not been built to withstand that amount of tonnage.
And that's the normal public road we are talking about here, of course, because these trucks don't go on the farm road.
Right.
Okay. So I'm hopeful that the government will see the need to, or the authorities will see the need to give some attention to
The
this
government is
particular-
giving a lot of attention to public roads
Yeah.
and repaving of the public roads. So that is an area that they probably need to pay attention. But before we end, I want to bring up an issue about the inflation in the country.
Yeah.
And we spoke about this in the past.
we have.
And what is going on. And I think the most significant thing is the increase in your Grenneck bills.
Energy.
Energy, because when you look, I mean, gas have been kept at $17 a gallon for the most part since. But at Grenneck level, and what is happening with energy, some people are seeing sometimes $400, $500, $600 increase in their bills. This is significant. The average home is registering between $100 and $200 and $250 increase. And that is significant in terms of spending power for food, and then you have food on the other side.
That's correct.
So I think we need to have a conversation about I just saw an article with Mia Motley. They were planning a celebration for independence and the Republic Day. And she scaled it down because she said she don't see the need to spend that money for that celebration when she could put it to other services to deal with the inflationary increases.
And that's how we have to think,
yes.
Chris. So in other words, if we have an independence celebrating, don't spend 20 million, spend 5.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of conversation about Polaris and what has happened in Polaris and the spend on Polaris, when we could have probably hold some of that money to do the expected inflation increases to help the average man on the street.
So in other words, Chris, given the inflation situation, we need to rethink.
Yeah, and we need to reassess how we do what we do. You know, and I end with the gender-based violence with men, and they need to stop what they're doing. And you know, we always promise that we'll talk about that. I make a carry-on call because I heard a discussion today where they were talking about men and their attitude and how we need to change and what we need to do. And again, I make a carry-on call to our communities and the community centers where we have meetings and we bring people together, churches and all of them. We always have to keep saying and reminding them that this is not something that
maybe
we
it's a good
support.
time. Did I tell you, Chris, about my experience, what I observed on the carnage not this weekend before? It's a Saturday morning. I went to get some cement on the carnage, and employees from the firm, 2 young women were walking, and they were molesting them. And one of the young men was saying, "My girlfriend, Bam Bam, bigger than yours," and you know, it was very difficult for the women. They felt very uncomfortable. But I intervened. I told the young men this was unacceptable. And they listened, you know, which is a good thing. They smile and they listen.
And you know, your intervention is what we need to do more, because silence doesn't help it.
Yes.
When we see something infraction like that, we need to call it out.
Absolutely.
And have a conversation with who is doing it.
You see how uncomfortable young women were made to feel? Totally unnecessary.
And silence is not a
Chris, that's for now. So viewers, stay with us when we come back. Of course, we have Pastor Stanford Simon with us. So stay with us, we'll be right back.
Fit for Life and Allied Laboratories, providing quality care and expertise. Fit for Life and Allied Laboratories, see our in-house doctors and our pharmacies. Get expert care and quality tests. When it comes to your health, you deserve the best. Fit for Life and Allied Laboratories, we're taking care of Grenada.
In Grenada, sports aren't just a game, they're a way of life. They teach discipline, teamwork, and resilience. They inspire the next generation to push boundaries and chase excellence. That's why the Investment Migration Agency of Grenada is proud to support sports initiatives as part of our commitment to youth and national development. When we invest in sports programs, we invest in the future. We invest in the health and well-being of our youth, and we invest in broadening Grenada's reach, proudly connecting our athletes, our talent, and our nation to a global community. Together, we all go further. The Investment Migration Agency. Unlock the possibilities.
MTV Vibes on Spice Mass. Spice Mass in Grenada. Spice Mass in Grenada. MTV Vibes of Spice Mass 2026. Grenada. MTV Vibes of Spice Mass.
Welcome back, viewers, and as we indicated, we have Pastor Stanford Simon with us on this segment of the program. Pastor Simon has been a pastor for many years, 15 years plus, and still is a pastor, not that he's not a pastor anymore. He was primarily the St. George's Baptist Church, where he served as the main pastor for many years, 15 plus years. Pastor Simon brings with him a wide range of abilities and qualifications. He has served on many boards in Grenada. He has done a lot of, he has been the managing director of One Call Investment, which is a construction company that he formed, and I know has done many work in the construction sector. He's also the founder of a Christian Services Corporation, a non-profit arm of his construction company, of course, where he brings together people for various issues for education, worship, and fellowship. Pastor Simon has been involved in the credit union movement and has been at the highest echelons of that movement as president of credit unions and the National Credit Union Movement. So he's well skilled in finance and money matters, as well as his capacities of chairman and vice president and of GDB, right?
GDB,
Right.
yeah, the chairman.
You were there for a number of years as well,
7 years.
yes, and did significant moves there. So I just I've given you a snippet of Pastor Simon and what he brings, but the most important part is his recent change in what he has done. He has retired as a pastor in St. George's Baptist Church, and you are now pastoring a smaller,
Yeah, much smaller.
much smaller. So you have not given up
No,
on that side, the spiritual side of things.
not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not
Good. So, Pastor Simon, we come from a rich history of religious people taking part in politics, and there would be a school of thought that says, how does politics and religion mix or not mix? And we used to say politicians and labor unions and pastors of various denominations use the same techniques to convince the people who are listening to them that this is the right way to be or to go. How are you going to balance that now in your new role as a member of the DPM representing St. George's Northeast?
Yeah, St. George's Southeast.
Southeast, yes.
Right. Good evening, listeners. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. I mean, I'm really happy to be sitting here to talk with my friends.
Yes.
A person that I know very well, and your listeners. It's very exciting, I must say. Let me just remind people, and go back a bit, because people forget, right? I want to give this because it's important in the context for which we stand. In 2002, when we came in the NDC, Peter and a couple of us, NDC didn't have a seat. 2008, we won the election, right? 2011, 10 of us was expelled. I went, I presided over my own execution. I went to one of our convention, and there they accused of wanting to take over the party, and I call them, they moved a motion. Second, I accept all in favor, and as people said all in favor, and there I accepted that. I thanked them for my service that I've given to them and the opportunity to serve, and I walk out. I left. So that in context of, and I was a chairman then, in the context of politics, I've always been involved in politics. I grew up in a home of politics. I remember my mother coming home, and she was mad vexed because Dr. Keith Mitchell told Blaze at the time that he wasn't going to challenge him. My mother, she came home for a whole week. She was quarreling. He told the man he wasn't going to do it, and he did it anyway. So for me, my background of being involved in politics have always been that. Frontline politics have been where I got involved by being the chairman of the party. Now, my involvement of, let me not separate that. My exit from the St. George's Baptist Church was in plan for 15 years.
Yeah.
And so when I reached a point where Pastor Richard Beckford came into light and served for 1 year, I realized he's a person to replace me. There was no need for me to stay finding somebody who has the capacity. And therefore, the church knew I was going. The church knew I was, and my leadership knew I was going. I was all said I was going between 57 and 60, I'm out. And I was 57. and so that decision was one that had been carefully planned and executed. The church have grown through tremendously and been one of the most influential church in the country. And therefore, for me, it was a joy to be able to leave the church in very good hands, in Reverend Beckford hands. So the church is fine. So the execution of me, one thinking about how am I managing that? I've always managed it. I've always been involved in politics. Politics has never been away from me. I have a love and passion for politics.
Well, I mean, when I listen to you, 'cause you're very much avid program, you do a lot of radio programs,
Yes.
and you express yourself
Yes, I
very
do.
openly
I do.
on issues and so on. And there is never a time when you have not been expressive on issues the country face.
Yes.
And we just spoke about gender-based and what is happening
Right.
with gender-based violence. And when you listen to your programs, you could know that there is the political side of you because you talk about it.
I'm open about it.
Yeah, you never hide it.
A matter of fact, I remember when one of my meetings, well, not meetings at the church, a member did ask me, Pastor Simon, when you leave, when you're no longer a pastor, are you going to be involved in politics? I said, I do not know, but it's a possibility that I may. So for me, being involved is natural. I was saying to someone, we were out doing the canvassing, going from house to house, and I said to them that, you know, this is like witnessing. It's the same process. You go to convince somebody to believe what you're saying, right? And secondly, the term of reference for me, it was to move off being able to listen to people and they're saying, you know, can you pray for me? So I was fulfilling I'm fulfilling the both roles in doing this. And it's really a joyful experience. I must say, it's an experience I enjoy, but I believe in my heart is necessary for me as a person who believe I have something to offer still for the country. The next 15 years, to be able to give that to public service. And
No,
that in
no,
itself-
your party that you're part of, DPM,
BPM, yes.
the philosophy is a little different to what we know in traditional politics with NNP, NDC, and other parties. And is it one that you buy into from the point of view that you believe you can get the mindset changed? Because this is what Honorable Peter David is offering.
Yes.
Move away from the tribalism and have the people decide where they need to be, have more conversations with them and formulate policy around that and move into that direction that the people have a more important say in the trajectory of the country. Is it this something that you buy into?
Is it, yeah, wholeheartedly, because I've always believed, I come from a Baptist church. Baptist church is democratic. The power of the Baptist church is in the pew, not in the pulpit. The members are more in charge of the church than the pastor. He provides leadership, but they have the voice. And therefore, I believe the people need to have a bigger voice and a bigger say in what we do. The problem is that we elect people, we put them into office, and then we can't tell them not for 5 years. And then when they come back 5 years to tell us what they want to do, it should be participatory. You should have, I should be able to go back to my constituency and to report to them and to be able to say, this is what I'm doing, and they should be able to question me. But it should be mandated. It clearly define that relationship between the constituent and the person who represent them. There need to be a relationship. Not only that, but we also believe, and I personally believe that too, that if government is not serving the people, then why are you elected?
Yeah.
Why are you serving?
And you know, I always on this program here talk about how our politics have not matured. And I refer to the simple thing of your constituents must have a debate among the people who are offering themselves.
Right.
And say to them, listen, what are your policies? Why is your policy A, B, or C? Because we're seeing different things happening in the country. How you are planning to attack that, to solve it, and get, you know, people to interact. Well, we don't seem to ever want to go there. as leaders.
We do not want to go there because, you know, we are afraid. Most persons within politics, they're afraid to being asked questions that they do not know what the question is and publicly answer it, like how we're speaking here. We have this in the yard that we do, and that is pretty much, people ask you hard questions right there and you have to answer. But sometimes you don't answer correctly. Sometimes you don't answer the way that you should answer or the way that they want. But that's the reality of what it is. But I believe that if you believe something and you're answering from your heart meaningfully and honestly, people understand. And therefore, there need to be debate where the discussion need to happen more and more. And there need to be more debate among the politicians. I've said to someone, I'm not a politician. I am a leader seeking the office of a politician, because I am not the believer where you lie to people, you tell people things that you cannot deliver, and you do things just to get elected, and when you get there, you do what you want. I do not believe in that. The credit union have taught me that if you want to empower a person, I remember when we started the credit union, I remember when I went in the credit union as president, there was about 16,000, there was $60 million in asset. And I remember people was having their money stored still under the bed. People who in control of the credit union the treasurer didn't want to give up the purse. And I remember for us changing that was difficult, but we got to change. I was leading that, and I remember when the amalgamation came, there were 21 credit unions in the country. And I said, listen, it's too much credit union, we're not successful. I started amalgamation. I was president of Teachers Credit Union then, and I amalgamated with teachers. No, I think they arise, I believe. Yeah. But I think that what you want to not a riser, I'm misunderstanding, not a riser, teachers credit union, anyway. But what I did was lead something that giving them the responsibility to saying, okay, I'm leading the process. And amalgamation of bringing a small credit union to a bigger one, we down to 11. And when I left the credit union, we was now 36,000. We was over $300 million. There is leadership in bringing the power to the people, because if you trust the process and you trust the people, I believe that we can do far more if we get more people involved. The credit union is where it is because we got more of our membership involved and more people involved. I want to say this. A lot of the middle class and upper class want to be part of the credit union now, which they never used to be because they have money. And that's a danger, because I already see how they are destroying what has been built and what the credit union is really about.
Principles of the
principles of the credit union are changing because the middle and upper class has come in because they see the credit union successful, and they are destroying what poor people have.
So they're
built.
becoming more like traditional banking institutions.
Exactly.
Well,
and they are forgetting with the foundation of what the credit union is all about. It's about helping poor people to be, and the ordinary people and the lower class, which have the most money in the credit union.
Yes.
Helping them, and it's their money. But now, they
I want to move to issue of, in MIAD, or that's what you call it.
Yes.
So the expectation is that that is going to help formulate your manifesto.
Yes.
And what is going to come.
Yes.
So I could assume here and ask you that your party is actively engaging in developing that to present to the people.
Yes.
And what your intention, because we have difficult issues facing the country. We have inflation now with the geopolitics and what is happening in the world. You have the labor crisis. I call it a crisis now.
A serious crisis.
In construction and agriculture and so on.
The serious crisis.
And then we have young people that are demanding more of the education system, and how are we going to deal with that as we go forward. So is the DPM looking at these challenges and probably how we could solve that working together?
Yes, clearly we are looking at it. And for us, let me start by looking at where we are. The labor market, we have a problem in construction field in terms of finding labor. And going back a bit, in the revolution, you had the skill training that we had in our schools, and that was developing. What we have reaped, my generation, as now we are in our 50s, moving out. And what happened,
You say we're talking.
well,
We're treating tired people on the stage. I say no more.
So if you think about it, really, that the people that we have now, a lot of construction workers was coming from St. Patrick, St. Andrew, St. David. The best of the carpenters was coming from St. David. The best of the masons was coming from St. Andrews. What is happening now, that in those places, the young people are no longer trained. There is no apprenticeship coming in to help them develop. That's one. the construction is spread across the country, and you have a number of young people who are, they're carpenters, and then they turn into, since after Ivan, they have turned into builders, which then they cannot build. They don't know what they're doing. And they have created problems in the market where a lot of people are giving them money, and therefore the houses are not built.
Yeah.
So now you have number of the foreign persons, like the Chinese are coming in, and persons are complaining. I'm not complaining as a builder, because the reality, we need them, because the effectiveness of delivering to what we want to do, that we need to happen. When it comes about labor is a problem here, and skilled workers is a problem. That's one. Healthcare. And we are clear on that there must be primary healthcare is key. I think about Laborie where I am, the healthcare center there is closed. I don't know why. Everybody else do not know why it's closed. It's just closed. Why? Growing up, Laborie was a place that you go to be cared for. We used to leave when it closed on the cliff is up there.
What was DPM policy on Project Polaris? What does DPM respond to Project Polaris?
Well, we believe in many ways that is a pie in the sky in terms of listen.
Pie in the sky?
Listen. Hear me out.
Yeah.
That you understand that we need better healthcare. That is important, without question, and nobody's denying that. And you have our healthcare system, which need improving at the moment. Our primary healthcare, where we're going, is a problem. If you go across the country, a number of them are closed, and there's not service in this primary healthcare. So everybody come to town, right? And then town complain too many people are coming. Why? Because of primary healthcare. If you go to General Hospital, there's a set of issues there that we need to fix. Nurses are not well paid.
Well, the government have Mount Sinai
and
assisting.
Right.
And they just recently put up a thing on healthcare. Honorable Telesford said that they invest in a lot of money in primary healthcare.
Okay, but are you feeling it? Ask the people on the ground. Don't ask me. Ask the people on the ground. And when I'm going to the constituent, I'm talking to them that there is a problem that needs to be fixed. Now, it needs to be fixed because during the time of the revolution, they did an excellent job of building these healthcares, and it worked. But I go back to your point that you asked with Polaris. Now, you think about the cost of that. How much? 200 million?
US
dollars.
Plus.
Now,
Plus 250,
right.
I think, yeah.
We cannot at this moment take care of what we have. Right? You explain to me, how are we going to pay for it? They talk about investors and persons coming. You bill it, right? How are you going to maintain it? Now, if the U.S. give a travel advisory to us and say you can't travel to Grenada, what happened? If England give a travel advisory to us, what happened? I think we need a new hospital, you could say, but at that size?
Well, you call it pie in the sky. One of the policy came up with PDM is that they call it a pie in the sky, is that you're promising to provide, $20,000 to every young person? $35,000
for under 35, and if they're single, and 50.
That's called a pie in the sky.
Okay,
how are you going to find this? How are you going to?
Listen, right now the government has they put forward what was 50 million, I believe, that they have to build homes.
Yes.
They have built 17 houses, I think.
I think it's Project 500 it's called.
500, right.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you have, for 5 years, you put $50 million down, right, and said every year you're putting 1% of your budget, which is 10%, right, of that. $10 million every year towards giving persons that grant to be able to give their home. First persons, the problem when people go to the bank or the credit union, they don't have the down payment, right? That in itself generating what? Economic spin-off, because you have persons that are building their home, your people getting work, the builders getting work, so that could pay for it. Government getting back services from that. Right? And if you think about those persons who are married, they still cannot find the funds to do it. If the government could help those persons, and not that you have a whole $10 million every year from your budget. The government could always find money to do what it wants to do. And I believe.
But you could argue that the sector that is doing the best in Grenada right now is construction.
Of course.
And to a lesser extent, construction led by services, education services in particular, in terms of GDP growth rate in the economy, and tourism.
Right.
So your party's projection of 10 million for construction of homes will also have to include land.
It have to include but,
Yeah.
not include the people. These individuals going to the bank, to the financial institution, says, I want to buy this piece of land. They're not the government identified for them. They are coming to us and said, we have a piece of land that we want to buy.
Okay.
We have a house that we want to build. They have to go, the loan has to be approved, knowing that government would help in the down payment for which you have.
Okay.
So
Those are down payment
so
issues.
the down payment issues. It is for them to start that house, the down payment that they need. That always
Is that a loan or is it a grant? What is
It's
it?
a grant.
It's a grant.
It's a grant that they don't have to pay it back.
Yeah. Pastor, I want to go to the South St. George Southeast constituency because this is where you are a proposed candidate. This is where you're going to be. What is the current condition of the constituency? How would you describe those conditions there right now? And why do you think it's necessary for your intervention at this time? What are you going to do different?
First, I go back to my first point, healthcare. I believe that there need to be better healthcare services in the Southeast. It is important for people to be able, and what we call primary healthcare. That is key. I think that better services need to be provided across the Southeast, and you see there are people who need, there are those persons who try to go for their pension and so forth at the end of the month. They struggle to do that. Government can help being able to get that to them. I also believe very clearly, when you look at the Southeast, sports have always been a big thing. And young people, you have in Laborie, a sports center there that is underutilized. I think there need to be more sporting activities to be able to get that moving in a
But
great
sorry,
way.
let me challenge. When you go to Woburn and Laborie, and there's fields at the government, and lighted them actually.
Totally agree. But I'm saying there need to be more to attract young persons in those places. When you walk through, talk to all those persons, one of the things that they're saying to you, there is not enough activities for young people. Our population, 63% is on the age of 35. It means we have a very young population. The question is, what are we doing to capture, one, that energy, that skill set that is there in sports? If you walk around, all right, and just drive around, there are some of the fields that you would go, and there are a couple of things that are happening in the fields, but a lot of them are not. When we were growing up, all the fields on an evening was pretty packed. Football, cricket, something is happening in the field. A lot of these young persons are sitting at home now on their phone, and we have to find a way. The government have to find a way to help them.
But as you critique the constituency, what has the current parliamentary representative there done well, in your view?
I would say what he has done well.
Because you coming in to make a difference, so what have you identified there?
Listen, I believe there are some work done with roads in terms of what has happened. He has helped to fix a couple of roads that they have had and meet that in the constituency. I think his representation in terms of that is of wanting, but he has done some work there. But I am not pushing on what he has done or trying to critique what he has done.
So if elected, what measurable changes should people expect after 5 years?
But I'm saying to you that one of the things I would do is healthcare, primary healthcare.
That's
one
it?
thing. I focus on healthcare, sports. I think it's very important. I think there are some roads to finish in terms of linking the Southeast in different ways that need to be done. And beyond that, I think there need to be more community engagement with our people.
I was about to come and ask you.
There need to be far more community engagement. I think there are a lot to be learned.
So what the present government is doing, because they have, what you call them, what do you call these meetings, Chris?
Town hall.
Town hall meetings. What do you think about those? Is that community meetings?
It is, but I believe they need to be more engaging. I think they're far apart. I think there need to be more community engagement by the parliamentarian in engaging people, because I think there are a lot more to be done. As I said, in sports, I think a lot more. You have some of the roads to be checked on. I think healthcare, for me, is a very big thing. And I think that in itself, I go back to it because it's a very big thing. And beyond that, I see that when you represent your constituents, you also think of how do you represent the country. They both have to be tied together. You can't just do it within your own space or what you have. I think spread across the country, there are a couple of things that are happening, but we need to be able to think, how can we effectively
Right.
make the
So let me
country
ask this
better?
question, because we had Mrs. Peters here, Ann Peters, who was a past Minister of Education, a big proponent of primary health care. And at the end of the program, we were convinced that one of the things we need to do at the community level is to have discussions on healthcare in every time we meet. whether it's church, community, whatever, to educate people. For example, we have a major problem with NCDs, non-communicable disease, diabetes, hypertension. How do we influence the eating habits? How do we change and let them know that you need to do things differently to prepare? We have a big problem with our young people in their body and how they treat their body. They fat a lot, they drink a lot, they don't sleep enough, they don't eat properly. And you're seeing it happening that diseases that used to manifest itself in the 40s and 50s happening in the 20s.
Well,
so is that something DPM will consider?
It is one of the things that we are seeing more and more. And especially when you talk to people one-on-one, the healthcare is the top issue, right? One is the services, but the other thing is the exercise. How do you help people to eat better? The thing that we give our children to go to school with, the biscuit and conkers, it is hurting us in the long term much more than it is. There need to be a total re-education, even at our primary health, our primary school, right? They need to be parents need to be educated on how do we treat our children and what do we give them to eat, because you know what's happening too. Then our country is suffering, because then these persons end up in a hospital. And then the government has to take care of them.
But the question to me, Pastor, to you is, how do you convince them? You know, we've been talking about grow what you eat and eat what you grow. That has not caught on, right? So how would DPM get that mindset to change? And we talk about parents and they're giving these fast foods things and so on to the kids in the kit. And governments have intervened by having an eating program in the school where they give them healthy food, at least one hot meal.
Right.
So the question is, how will DPM do it differently?
I believe we need to have one education in radio program. I think we need to do more in educating persons. I think at the same time being able to look at going back to our primary healthcare, at our healthcare services that we have within the community, they need to be more active. In other words, it means then maybe looking at how then can we house our nurses that used to be in the community and our doctor that is connected to it. And we have community programs that educating persons, just like you're bringing doctors to do specific things. I think you need to have that within the community in helping people to eat better. But beyond that, I think the responsibility, that is of government. But I think government also need to work with the churches, because I think the churches have a huge influence in helping persons to understand. I must commend the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They do an excellent job of teaching their people and helping them to eat better. I think maybe we need to be having a discussion with them and saying to them, okay, how can you help us to educate our people and educate the country, because they have done it. Maybe in looking at it, how then can we use their skill, their talent, and the opportunity that they have given to those persons that they have within the congregation, how can they help the country to be able? But there need to be a broader discussion and at the same time to be able to fix.
Let's go back to the party, the DPM. And the whole question, historically, Grenada has been dominated by two major parties. So realistically, can the DPM win the government? Or should I say, is your strategy rather to form the government? Is it to form the government or to influence whoever wins? I mean, what is really the strategy
Form the
here?
government.
Is it realistically?
Listen.
And tell us how realistic it is.
It is realistic, because let me tell you this. Miracles do happen, right?
Well, yeah,
no, hold on. No, listen, you ask me how, so you have to leave me to answer.
Fine, okay, fine. Reasonable here.
So miracles do happen, right? So you have, in the midst of what we have, that you have two political parties that's dominated for the time. If you think about it, we have about, I think, over 60,000 persons registered to vote. In the last election, I think around 28,000, if I were correct, that voted. Pretty much half of what
well, last election is more.
It was more than that.
60+%. No, it was.
36. Anyway, But sorry, I got it wrong. There were 26,000 persons that didn't vote. But a third that didn't vote.
Yes, that's right.
Now, you have that amount of people. What if you ask them why they didn't vote? They're fed up. These individuals say that they're fed up with the two systems.
The constituencies are won by few votes, marginal.
100. 1 by 6. 200 and something votes.
So if you had to
bring in half of the 15,000 of those persons, and they say, listen, at least there is a third option. We want to be a part of that. And it changes the whole dynamics. So the responsibility, it is there, written, right? It is in the numbers. Because we have to now convince those persons that we are capable of winning and capable of leading the government. And that is what we are doing. That is what we are doing. We are only a year old. And
If there's a hung parliament, would you enter a coalition?
well, that would be up a discussion to be had, and I'm very sure that discussion is open to happen. I'm sure our leader will be happy to have a
You know,
discussion.
you raised the question about miracles. You brought it back. So
Yes.
Jesus said,
Yes.
"My kingdom is not this world." Why should one of his ministers become immense in worldly political competition?
Think about it. Joseph became the prime minister of Egypt.
So we're
And-
going into the Bible now.
No, well, you have the
I did, yes, yes.
I don't bring the Bible.
I just want Chris supported this one. That's all.
You brought the Bible up, so I have this
I think Christ was one of the biggest politicians.
Well, of course. No, I
Because he
want
wanted to convince people of his philosophy.
Of course, listen.
Every
it is
time.
about
Yeah.
he came in with something very new. And to convince those persons of
Yeah.
it, he went from village to village,
Yeah.
walking, proclaiming the gospel. What I'm doing, I am now proclaiming that we can have a different country, we can have a better country. I'm proclaiming that because I believe in my heart that we are far better than they say we are. I believe we have the possibility to transform this country. The only thing we have not done is come together. The tribalism is the
But there's a
strongest.
reality about the political, how do you reconcile political confrontation with Christian teachings on forgiveness and humility?
Love your neighbor as yourself. I love you, despite I love the persons who vote for
is
NMP.
it realistic?
Well, leave
Is
me
it-
to answer. It's
Fine,
it
okay.
is realistic.
Fine.
Love your neighbor as yourself. That's teaching of the Bible. I love my NMP brothers. I love my NDC brothers. I love my persons.
So
who are
as a
independent.
politician, you as a pastor, let me call it that, you
Yeah.
can remain politically neutral?
Politically neutral?
Yeah.
You can't remain politically neutral. How you could be neutral?
In your
You-
church,
No,
as a
listen, you
pastor.
must have a stand. You can't be neutral.
Okay.
You have to have a stand. It's either you're for or against. If you're in the middle of the road, what is that? Because any politician that is neutral is because they're afraid and they're fearful of what people would say or think. I'm not afraid of what you say or what you think. If I have a belief and I believe in it and I stand by it, I would tell you what I believe. You may disagree with me, and that's your right. But my right is to tell you what I believe and define it for you, that you know that the possibility of me standing here and saying that I would make the country better through health care is my belief. It's just like when I went in the GDB Bank. We wanted to, the bank wasn't in a good state, and I believe, and I remember talking to Dr. Mitchell when he told me, and I want to thank him for the opportunity to serve there, because I really learned a lot. But I said to him, if you give me the bank to run, you leave me, don't get the politics involved. And I want to thank him for staying out of it. And in 7 years, within the first two years, we paid dividend to him, and the bank was successful. I'm saying to you that if you tell politicians and you lead persons to do their job, they would get it done. But you have to be honest about it.
Now let's go to the government performance. And I want a balanced assessment here. The current administration has highlighted progress in the new hospital. We talk about that. They spent, $21 million already? Project Polaris, continued road and infrastructure works, and other major capital projects. But you have a history in project management and in projects. The government has rolled out a new initiative, Design, Build and Finance. How do you view this strategy, this policy working? And what are your concerns about it?
Well, for sure, we would have a big debt to pay, for which I don't think we're ready to pay for it. Because if a person's coming and they're bringing their money, you tell them in 3 to 5 years that you would pay. You know, as a finance and as a person in finance, it means that you would have a problem. We talked about inflation. When the time comes to pay the bill, where are you going to get the money to pay? Because you don't have it now to pay. In 5 years, where are you getting the money to pay? The reality is, yes, I believe there are some things you need to leave alone, despite it may be politically prudent to do, that you would do it, but politically, but for the country's sake, you are putting the country in a debt that they have to carry, that they do not know how we pay it back. And that's the reality. Because if you were to ask the government, how are we going to pay it back in 5 years? I don't think they already have an answer. When the time comes, that they'll figure it out. But I do not believe that if you want to run a successful country, look at Singapore. You cannot do it by leaving it and saying we're going to figure it out. You have to plan it. Planning
And I mean,
brings success.
we have put forward deficit budgets in recent times.
Yes.
And the question becomes, as you say, how are we going to finance, design, build, and finance? And in terms of paying, how are we doing that with deficit budgets and running deficit budgets? And we say in the deficit budgets, we put forward that we don't have to worry about the deficits. We'll get money to fill it through grants and loans and so on.
Right.
So the question is,
but then if those persons who grant and loan decide that they're not giving you money, because if you think about it, the world is in trouble. We have a lot of wars going on, and more countries are pulling back. The United States are pulling back in a tremendous way.
Most of our
They are suspending most of our aid. It's
Yeah.
gone. England in trouble. They have been changing prime minister. I think it's the 6 or 7 prime ministers. In
Short time.
short time that they have changed. The exit from Brexit haven't helped them.
That's
The economy.
In fact, there's a lot of criticism on this. now, what
Right.
have
So they are facing a real issue that they are facing.
Yeah.
If you look at South America, well, Venezuela in trouble. Brazil is emerging a little bit better now. Mexico is dependent on the America, and the last agreement they have, Trump is not signing it. He said that today. And the reality of that is if they don't sign it in 10 years, it means that that project is gone. And Canada, if you look at Canada emerging about the middle, saying that the middle now need to come together, but the middle can't come together without the support of the top. And no, I come to answer your question.
Yeah.
If then that these countries now are taking care of themselves and more concerned about themselves, what happened to us? My question is, we need to be careful about what we do with this small island, because if we're not careful, we'll end up with a bill that 5 or 10 years from now that we're going to have to get the IMF in to give us structural
We
adjustment.
have to take a short break there. Viewers, stay with us. We'll be right back. What time we have when we get back?
Is the air you're breathing really clean? At Allied Laboratories, we offer indoor air quality testing for commercial and residential spaces. Our rapid test results provide precise ratings of common air contaminants and will recommend the best actions to eliminate them effectively. Why do an indoor air
Especially when
quality
engaged,
test?
very engaged.
Protect immunocompromised occupants. Detection of mold and bacteria. Identify volatile organic compounds. Identify particulate matter. Identify harmful pollutants that may otherwise go undetected. Enhances safety and comfort. Breathe easier and live healthier. Allied Laboratories, bringing quality laboratory services directly to you.
At Grenlick, we believe in the peace of mind that comes from preparation. Preparation is your first defense against natural disasters. First, create an emergency plan and ensure everyone knows it. Second, stock up on solar and battery-powered lights, chargers, and secure essentials. Install a transfer switch on your generator to prevent power from flowing onto Grenlick's lines. Third, wear safe. Trim trees that may fall and damage power lines. Preparation saves lives and property. Be ready. Grenlick, energizing our Grenada.
Welcome back, viewers. We're here with Pastor Simon, of course, and he is the candidate-elect, for St. George Southeast for the People's Democratic Movement.
Yeah.
In recent
it's
times,
People's Democratic DPM.
DPM.
DPM,
Yeah.
Democratic People's Movement. Yeah.
Yes.
Democratic People.
In recent times, more now than before, government has increased engagement with overseas Grenadians.
That's right.
Do you believe the diaspora? Do you believe that this is a genuine national development, or is election politics? How do you see it?
No, the diaspora have a role to play. I mean, they have huge skill set
Yeah.
that we need. They have the money that they need to bring back home.
But how can they contribute beyond remittances?
No, but I'm saying to you,
Yeah.
coming back home and build their homes.
Yeah.
come back home and offer their services, the skill set that they have gathered over the years, bringing that back home is a critically important. And the investment that they bring with it. A lot of them must save their money back home, so that's important. But they come to build their homes. Also, they have their family members that they have here. But then the point of health care, that's also an issue for them, because coming back home and not a proper health care is a big thing for the diaspora. So I think it's excellent for us to engage them and have them to be part of the process, because I believe that they have a lot to offer. In any form or shape, the diaspora have a lot to offer, and we should be engaging them. All political parties should be engaging them. And I think we should not make it political, but it should be a genuine move to get these persons to come back to help us.
Do you think the present administration is making it political, though?
Well, it is political. That's what I'm saying. We need to not make it political. There needs to be a genuine effort in trying to collectively bring them home to see how they can help us, because they have huge skills and the opportunities, I think, that they can give to us, not so also, but the connection they can give to us back in the country where they were. I think it's very important to have them to be part of
Party financing is a big deal everywhere, internationally, increasing importance worldwide. Where does the DPM obtain its funding?
Well, the DPM obtains its funding where it obtains its funding. I would think you want to find out. But then, if you give me some money, I'll be very happy.
Should we legislate campaign finance reform? Foreign donations be restricted? Should political donations be closely disclosed publicly? Do you believe we need reform?
Well, I wouldn't doubt they need reform I wouldn't doubt that at all. And they may be looking at that. I can answer you and tell you what are the areas that need reforming. But I'm sure they need reforming to be able to streamline it and to be able to look at how we get it done. That it should be fair. It shouldn't be where you again corrupt money into the political system. I agree that there should be some, but I can't tell you what.
Let me just add this here, that campaign reform financing, or financing for reform, in small island states, that is a difficult thing to achieve, because we don't have huge businesses that will come, and if a huge business come and donate $1 million to a party, it's because they want to influence things in a certain way. Of course. That's a natural thing of campaign financing. If you tell a man he can only donate $50,000 to a party in some form and the other, and he will still get a tax rebate or whatever, at the end of the day...
So you're opposed to reform?
No. I am saying reform must be there to avoid monies that will come through drug activities and that kind of thing. But you can't come and tell me to reform a party, and a businessman comes to my friend here and says, you know, healthcare is a major issue in your constituency. I am willing to donate $500,000 to bring the primary healthcare services up to a level and do all of that. You think he should turn it on?
But the other point, the United States, the Supreme Court have now moved the Nixon era.
Yes.
They have removed the cap on this campaign financing because you're holding them back. So we need to be careful about what we do and how we do it. I agree that it may need to be to control if you have outside.
Do you think the party in office has an advantage with campaign financing?
Listen, the party in power have the government powers. They always have an advantage. And nothing you and I could do about that. You just have to accept it as a reality.
I have a question for you, and I want you to look deeply within yourself, Pastor. If a voter meets you for a short minute outside a polling station and asks, why should I trust you in my future? What would you say?
Because you have trusted me for many years with many things, and I've delivered on all of them. I've never failed. Credit union, I've failed. The church I've led, the community groups I've led, they all have been successful. Regionally, I have done well in all of the regional boards I've sat on. Nothing I've been part of have failed.
Chris?
Pastor, I think that is an excellent way to answer the question, because your success is supposed to reflect what you stand for and what your principles are. And I'm hoping that with your involvement with DPM, we can see the politics move away from the tribalism, as you guys have indicated, that you intent on trying to focus on that area, and get our Grenadians to understand that after we vote, and whoever wins, the next day is not about parties, about the country. And I hope you get that message across.
That is what the DPM strive on. We want to be able to make a country. You know, I said I come from the Baptist tradition, also the people. When you finish voting, because you vote for persons when you get them into leadership, but the following day is about us working together. We are Grenadians. And the problem that we keep facing in our country, that the politics continue for the 5 years. People every day is about politics, who you vote for, it doesn't matter who you vote for. Get the best skill on board. I know you had to please some of your political people, but don't put persons who do not know what to do on a board, that all they do is collecting a stipend. That makes absolutely no sense. And you know why our country is the way it is? Because of the foolishness that we have done because of the politics.
I mean, I call it rapid fire, but you could give one word answer or very short answers. Well, what's your biggest weakness, Pastor?
What my biggest weakness? Maybe I'm too much of I give too much.
Fine, strength.
Strength?
Biggest one.
I believe that I'm a good communicator.
Favorite scripture?
Oh boy, I love this scripture. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not unto your own understanding. All your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path.
Said it's so easy, Chris. Favorite Grenadian hero?
Morris Bishop.
Most difficult political decision so far?
Most difficult? I don't have a difficult one.
No, fine. Okay. Who inspires you?
Who inspires me? My relationship with God. Really do.
One thing Grenadians misunderstand about you?
They say I leave God, I leave the church. I don't understand that.
Complete the sentence. Grenada will succeed when?
DPM becomes the government in leadership.
Chris, any further thing you want to say, Pastor?
Closing comments.
No, it's a wonderful opportunity. I believe that Peter David have the capacity to provide the leadership to this country. I think he have the experience, and I think the team he have around him is collectively like an arrow, ensuring that we bring this country to a place where it can be effective, efficient, and the tribalism for which we face need to go. We believe as DPM and Peter David clearly in his mind, clearly defining this, that he wants to see a country united collectively to transform this country in a way that the region and our people can be proud of.
That's it. No, that's it, Pastor Simon. Thank you very much for being here. I mean, we clearly understand what it is that you are striving for. And I hope our listeners and viewers got the same message. And this brings our program to an end.
To an end,
Yes, thank you very much.
Really, thank you for coming.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We want to wish you well. I mean, viewers, that's all the time we have. We'll see you next week at the same time.
That's right.